Have you ever seen someone sacrifice all their pieces just for one brilliant checkmate? Welcome, chess enthusiasts, to Zucho Chess. Today, we're going to witness one of the greatest piece sacrifices in the history of chess. This legendary game was played between Henry Ernest Atkins and Herbert Jacobs in 1915. Some of you might have seen this game before, but trust me, it never gets old. In this game, Atkins sacrificed almost all his pieces, leaving only one to deliver an incredibly beautiful checkmate. Let's dive right in. Atkins, playing white, opens with pawn to e4, and Jacobs responds with pawn to e5. Atkins continues with pawn to d4, and black captures with pawn takes pawn. Atkins then plays pawn to c3, entering the Danish Gambit. Black accepts the gambit with pawn takes pawn, and white develops the light-squared bishop to c4. Even though white has given up 2 pawns, look at how active his pieces are. His development is fast, and he is ready to launch an attack. Now, let's pause for a moment and analyze an alternative possibility. What if black captures the pawn on b2? White would simply respond with bishop takes pawn. And now, both of Atkins' bishops are actively targeting the king side. If black plays knight to f6, attacking the e4 pawn, white can push pawn to e5, attacking the knight. Here, black's best response would be a counterattack with pawn to d5. After pawn takes knight, black could capture the bishop with pawn takes bishop. White could then trade queens with queen takes queen, forcing black's king to recapture, preventing castling. White could continue with pawn takes pawn, attacking both the bishop and the rook. Black's best defense here would be bishop to b4 check. White blocks with knight to c3, and black saves the rook by moving it to g8. Now, white castles queenside with check. If black blocks with bishop to d7, white can further develop by moving the knight from g1 to e2. At this stage, black's best move would be to eliminate white's dangerous g7 pawn, which is close to promoting. Black plays rook takes pawn, but white responds with knight from c to d5, attacking the bishop while his own bishop attacks the rook. If black tries to counterattack by pushing pawn to d4, white has the strong response knight takes pawn. Black captures the knight with bishop takes knight, and white recaptures with bishop takes bishop, once again attacking the rook. At this point, black's best move is rook takes pawn on g2. White can then play rook from h to e1. Typically, black would respond with pawn to b6, creating an escape square for the king. White then plays knight to f6, attacking black's bishop, which is pinned by the rook. Black's most logical response is king to c8. White then captures the bishop with knight takes bishop, and black responds with knight takes knight. Now, white plays rook to e8, check. Black's only move is king to b7. White continues with rook takes rook, and black is forced to respond with king takes rook. White then plays rook takes knight. At this point, white has a significantly stronger position and a high chance of winning the game. That's why, in the actual game, Jacobs didn't capture the pawn and instead played knight to f6. The best move for white, according to analysts, would have been knight takes pawn on c3, but Atkins instead chose to develop his knight to f3. Black played knight takes central pawn on e4, and Atkins castled kingside. Jacobs then played knight to d6, attacking Atkins' light-squared bishop. Here comes the first sacrifice. Atkins ignores the threat to his bishop, and instead plays knight takes pawn on c3. Black captures the bishop with knight takes bishop. Atkins could have played queen to e2, check, forking the knight on c4, but instead, he chooses rook to e1, check. Jacobs blocks with bishop to e7, and white plays knight to d5, adding more pressure on the pinned bishop. Jacobs plays knight to c6, reinforcing the bishop. White then plays bishop to g5, increasing the pressure. Black responds with the most common move in this position, pawn to f6, attacking the bishop. Atkins ignores the attack and instead moves his rook to c1, attacking black's knight on c4. Black plays pawn to b5, defending the knight. Atkins now sacrifices yet another piece. Rook takes knight. Black captures with pawn takes rook, and here, Atkins makes a seemingly illogical move, knight t5. Instead of saving his bishop, he offers his knight as well. Jacobs now has a choice, capture the bishop or the knight. In the actual game, Jacobs chose to capture the bishop, but let's pause for a moment and analyze the other possibility. If black had played pawn takes knight, white would have responded with knight takes bishop. Black could then play knight takes knight, and white would capture the central pawn with rook takes pawn on e5, adding pressure on the knight. Black would most likely castle kingside, and white would continue with rook takes knight. Analysts suggest that black's best move in this scenario is pawn to d5. White could then play rook takes pawn on g7, check, attacking the queen. Black's king would be forced to capture the rook, and white would respond with bishop takes queen. Black could then recapture with rook takes bishop. At this point, Jacobs would actually have an advantage with 2 rooks and a bishop against white's sole queen. Okay, let's return to the actual game, where Jacobs captured the bishop. Atkins responds with queen to h5. Check. Jacobs blocks with pawn to g6, and white plays knight to f6. Check. If black moves his king to f8, white immediately delivers queen to h6. Checkmate. So, black is forced to capture the knight with the bishop. White then plays knight takes pawn on g6, delivering an open check with the rook. If black blocks with either the knight or the bishop, checkmate will follow in 2 moves. So, black is forced to block with the queen. White plays rook takes queen, check. Analysts believe that the best move for black here was king to d8, but in the actual game, Jacobs played bishop takes rook. This was a fatal blunder because now white can force a beautiful checkmate in a few moves. There are 2 ways to checkmate here: a 4-move checkmate or a more artistic 5-move checkmate. Atkins chooses the longer but more beautiful way. First, knight to e5 check. If black moves king to f8, it's an instant queen to f7 checkmate. So, black's king must move to d8. White then plays knight to f7. Check, forking the rook. Black's king is forced to e8, and Atkins continues with knight to d6, double check. Black's king returns to d8, and white sacrifices 1 more piece. Queen to e8, check. Black has no choice but to capture the queen with the rook. And now, the final move, knight to f7. Checkmate. Absolutely brilliant. Atkins sacrificed nearly all his pieces, leaving only 1 knight to deliver an unforgettable checkmate. Thank you for watching, and see you next time on Zucho Chess. Absolutely breathtaking. Atkins sacrificed nearly all his pieces, leaving only 1 knight to deliver checkmate after a series of seemingly unpredictable moves. That's it for today's analysis. If you enjoyed this deep dive into chess history, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Zucho Chess, and turn on notifications so you never miss a brilliant game like this one. Also, let us know in the comments, what do you think about Atkins' sacrifices? Would you have played differently? See you in the next video, only on Zucho Chess.